We begin this week's show with our exclusive one-on-one interview with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who tells us confirming judges is his greatest pro-life achievement. We sat down with the Kentucky senator this week at the Susan B. Anthony List's 12th annual Campaign for Life Gala. Here is our exclusive interview. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, thank you for taking the time to be with us.
Glad to be with you.
You are the recipient of the Susan B. Anthony List 2019 Distinguished Leader Award. What do you see as your most important pro-life accomplishment?
I think it's the ushering of judges through. President Trump has done an excellent job of selection. The single biggest decision I made in my career was a decision not to fill the vacancy created when Justice Scalia unfortunately died during the 2016 election. That led to the opportunity for President Trump to make a selection. I think he did a great job in picking Neil Gorsuch. And we, of course, had a second Supreme Court justice, with Justice Brett Kavanaugh. That became incredibly contentious. But I think the American people understood that everybody's entitled to the presumption of innocence, and we were able to work our way through that. Two great new Supreme Court justices, but you know, very few cases make it all the way to the top. The circuit courts are immensely important. Most complicated litigation doesn't make it beyond the circuit courts. We've done 41 circuit court judges, young men and women who believe in the quaint notion that maybe a judge ought to follow the law rather than his or her own personal opinion. In fact, Justice Scalia used to say, you're not a very good judge if you're not occasionally uncomfortable with the outcome you reach, because it's not your personal opinion, it's what the law seems to require. So these young men and women will be on the U.S. Circuit Courts. Remember, these are lifetime appointments for a very long time. I think it's the single biggest contribution we've made to changing America in the future.
As you mentioned, you did oversee 2 Supreme Court confirmations within the Trump administration. Can you speak to why that is especially significant for the pro-life movement? Why is this something the pro-life movement should be paying attention to, in the role of the judges in upholding the sanctity of life?
Yeah, I think an awful lot of the abortion-related decisions have been by activist judges who sort of followed their personal opinion as opposed to what the law might seem to dictate. And there are a variety of different pieces of state legislation that would begin to try to define legislatively this whole process of giving birth in such a way that it better identifies, now that science has become our ally, when life actually begins. And so there are a number of state legislatures who have enacted new legislation will be winding its way up through the courts, and gives us an opportunity to begin to pick away at Roe versus Wade.
Do you think you will oversee the confirmation of a 3rd Supreme Court justice within this administration?
No one knows. I think it's pretty safe to say that none of the elderly liberal judges are going to leave. But you never know. And certainly if we get another opportunity before the president's first term is over, we'll certainly fill it.
Earlier this year, the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act failed to pass in the U.S. Senate. But do you foresee there being another opportunity to move this piece of legislation forward?
Well, we may vote again, but what I think that told us, unfortunately, is that virtually all the Democrats these days have walked away, even from something like the Hyde Amendment, which years ago was boilerplate language. And the Hyde Amendment, for your viewers, simply was no taxpayer funds for abortion. The Democrats have walked away from that. And the Born Alive proposal was putting them on record as supporting something that almost everybody would find horrendous, and yet very few of them voted with us on it.
Pro-lifers do have a majority in the U.S. Senate, but not in the House. So as the leader of the Senate, do you see any opportunity to make pro-life progress in Congress in the current administration?
I do, and I think it's mostly through court appointments.
Okay.
Yeah, mostly through court appointments, because so much of this area of the law is determined in court, in the federal courts. And we are putting men and women into these positions for a lifetime who have, in my view, a more balanced review this whole area of life and death, which is extraordinarily significant and important. And I think that's the single biggest contribution we can make, and that's unrelated to the House. The House is not in the personnel business. We are. There are 1,200 executive branch appointments that come to us for confirmation, and the most important of them are the lifetime appointments to the courts.
And finally, for the remainder of this term, what piece of pro-life legislation do you plan to prioritize?
Well, we probably will have an opportunity again to vote on some kind of legislation related to Planned Parenthood. And there have been, by the way, some encouraging decisions already in recent months related to state prohibitions against funding of Planned Parenthood. And I've noticed how a lot of the judges that we have already confirmed just in the last 2.5 years have voted on those cases.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.